Check, check, check. Okay, cool. So it looks like we on. What's up, y'all? My name is Shu. Beyond representing the head Haman, House of the Living Sword. This is all according to plan. So today, went for a walk, came back, actually coming forth with it, and I'm looking at a book called The Kabbalah of Envy. I'm getting some interesting stuff in here concerning competition and cooperation. So I'm going to have some particular insights and particular selections from the book. I just now started reading it about maybe 10 minutes ago. Yeah, today is 9/7/2024. And yeah, it's a good day to look at things in the mirror aspect. So I'll read this part here. This is on page 2. So it says, nevertheless, it is interesting to note that food, money, and sex are often thought of as the most concrete elements of our reality. Thus, we can appreciate the wisdom of the adage in its precise exclusion of sex from the animal dimension. Sex is a vegetal element, not to be confused with love. Love, often related to sex, is in fact an expression of competition. It shares a cosmic niche with rage. This is why love is part of the animal dimension. They said 2 questions remain. Why approach the negative aspect, rage, rather than love, and why translate it as envy? So he's talking about the rabbis. Let's see. First, the rabbis recognize that competition comes before cooperation. Both are life movements, which are not necessarily differentiated, and differentiation would be an alchemical maxim to distinguish the authentic self from the false self, or the perceived self, or the conditioned self, which the book here is talking about envy. Is that a natural trait, or is that environmental factors that constitute the reactionary clause, or the reactionary aspect of behavior? We categorize it as envy in this particular quotient. I won't call this a lecture. It's more of a space to breathe in. So when we investigate questions relating to rage, we find a universe demarcated by vital spaces, physical, emotional, and spiritual. The interaction of 2 spaces promotes what we characterize in positive terms as love, and in negative terms as rage or hate, right? So he said the rabbis dealt with the cup, the pocket, and rage. So I'm going first page is the introduction. Now, usually I skip introductions, but this book is important to get the concept of what he's saying, because he said here that together with the Kabbalah of money and the Kabbalah of food, the Kabbalah of envy is a part of this particular trilogy, inspired by the Jewish saying, a person is known in 3 ways: by his cup, his pocket, and his rage. They were dealing with rage and envy based on the pocket and the cup. So what's the cup, right? Let's see here. It said the universe of matter and form are mineral expressions, respiration, alimentation, growth, and sex are vegetal essences, and locomotion, the search for food, hence the realm of the cup, right? Is the cup half full or half empty? That maxim. Ambition, the realm of the pocket, and competition, that of rage or animal phenomena. It's very pristine differentiation. Again, he put it in its place and it's real clear. And then he said, the eyes that see, the arms that reach, the legs that run, the nose that smells, the ears that hear, and all the rest of the human physique derived from this cosmic animal dimension. This is without a doubt one of the ways the universe conceives development, and it is the focus of the adage cited above. The animal dimension predominates as an arena for self-knowledge because the borderline between the animal and the divine is the unique territory of what makes us human. All right. This is the first of, we say the floodgates have opened. Let's see right quick. Yeah, I can share my screen, see it better. We'll figure this out though. Because I'd rather just get straight into it. Ain't too much to really. Yeah, so right here. Okay, we got that going. So allow. Got two other books too, Kabbalah and Exodus. It's just today. Zev Ben Shimon Halevi. It sounds French, the way I said it. And then Vaudou et Dipter. That's definitely French. Pour un nouvel titre populaire. It's the best French you're gonna get from me right now. And that's like the Vaudou theater. So I'm looking at that. But look at this here. This is the part that made me actually put this on a live, like a live broadcast. Envy is the most abstract form of rage. That's a meditation. I actually had to write that down in my accounting book because that moves over into the market, that moves over into, again, he said, that's why love is part of the animal dimension, the animal rage. How many people get killed over love? I mean, think about it. They say crime, passion. So passion is a criminal dimension when it's acted out in the form of rage or envy. Let's see. So we done with the cup, the pocket, and rage. And he's saying what's written here is that because the rabbis were interested in the phenomenon of obesity, which is another way of saying they got too much of a good thing going. It become the inverse of that. So they call it affluency or affluenza, to be sick with abundance. We deal with abundance nowadays, because we was raised on Abraham Hicks teachings, right? Raised on Bashar, right? He was raised on who else was he raised on? Good Kid, Mad City, right? Drake, right? Only when we perceive the excesses within ourselves and work to reduce them does the human soul become visible. That we discover more in the effort to return to equilibrium than by staying at equilibrium itself. They say again, this is like good 24-day hexagram 24 return. What's the culture now? Return to sender. That's the culture right now. I say return to center, because we know ourselves by our excesses or our unmet needs in regard to the cup, the pocket, and rage. Deal with that. You got three thieves. Is the thief next to Jesus, and the thief next to Jesus. So you got three thieves. Some deal with like imposter syndrome and oh yeah, in the mirror of the reality, he's constantly being questioned, moving through these different scenarios, or the theater of the Vodou theater, the the theater of rage, the pocket, and the cup, right? All those are very Christian symbols, and it's just something to meditate on, really. I'm just messaging, giving the message and giving the response to what I'm studying here. So it's a envy is the most abstract form of rage, and then hunger, the competition for a mate. So see, as far as Freudian slips, say that the competition is a male competition or a sperm competition, and the avoidance of pain. The avoidance of pain is the avoidance of rejection. So obviously these animal characteristics is written here. But what is envy? What is its origin and what is its object? Right. So envy is the most abstract form of rage. I have to continue to reiterate that. And it can store huge amounts of rage, controlling acts, situations, and entire lives, pouring out vast fortunes of vitality. Envy refines deep conflicts and disputes. The fortunes are spent, misused, in fact, without a murmur, though we may protest the stupid waste of huge portions of a country's wealth on weapons, right? On one level, the Cold War, which Cold War was like 2020 to 2021. The Cold War warmed up in 2022. It became the lukewarm war in 2023. All these things come back around. It reproduce the conflict of each one of us face to face with the so-called other, quote unquote. And here, certainly, this is why it became such a personal war for so many people. But you think about what I was saying just now. I'm gonna say Tuskegee and then leave it at that. And then look, the history of the Jews in medieval and modern times is marked by the experience, both individual and communal, of self and other, of quote us versus them. Quote, Jews are seen as the other and have come to internalize that state. The ghettos are the greatest monument to this phenomenon. I'm gonna start right there. He said the Jews are seen as the other. So he said the history of the Jews in medieval and modern times is marked by the experience, both individual and communal, of self and other, of us versus them. I ain't gonna hold you, like every Jew I met, whether they was this phenotype or whatever, is talking about they're always putting people in categories of, well, these people know and these people don't know. So they say, yeah, people who are not Jewish, they or the goyim. They say people who are not Jewish, they're Gentiles, and everybody else who's Jewish is one of the Jews, and circumcision this and all that. But unfortunately, people took the circumcision thing too far. My name is Joshua, by the way. So I'm speaking from what I've culturally come to recognize as the authentic standard or protocol. The Jewish aspect of it is really you're supposed to circumcise your heart, not necessarily genitalia. That moves into altering the blueprint. Circumcision of the genitalia moves into altering the blueprint of what is natural. And then now we're dealing here with rage. There's a whole conversation with men about circumcision and consent and rape culture that's going without recognition of these factors and how they interrelate. Because to me, Kabbalah is a system, a cohesive system, or a system of coincidence. So what I mean coincidence, I mean direct correspondence of nature and matter and the aspects of the spheres and the four worlds and all these things. All these things it's a double-sided conception of something that apparently you can't say the word, but we'll say tetragrammatomically speaking is dimensions within dimensions or worlds within worlds. Kind of like when I move my screen here. This is very Kabbalistic when it reflects back on itself. You see mirrors within mirrors, and it keeps going like that, as you can see here. Better to show than talk about it. But see here, we've already hit a stumbling block here with the other how people other themselves with their culture. because he said the ghettos are the greatest monument to this phenomenon of otherness, or it's almost like exclusivity. So yeah, I always say, ironically, once this kind of relationship is established, the I cannot exist without the other. This destructive symbiosis is wonderfully described by the boy Shalom Halakim. But he's saying you should always consider your neighbors. So there's nothing that wasn't already determined by many a prophecy, many a prophet, and then the message has been given over and over. Seems like everybody really interested. So I figured I try it out. You just deal with the straight up. The core of it is envy. So he said, let's go ahead with this part here. The Kabbalah Envy is a book about the people who inhabit our lives and how they disguise themselves in various ways. It is a book about dissembling friends. So the disassembly line, dissembling friends, enemies, and others, and above all, the dissembling I. And it is an attempt to help readers to reread their reality, starting with the redistribution of the lead roles in their carefully self-scripted lives. These scripts are symbolic soap operas of ourselves that determine our destiny, marked as it were, or marked as it is, by those we accompany and those from whom we flee, as well as by the sorrows and surprises of our journey. A rabbinical tenet states that he who sees others in the light of himself not only pacifies conflicts, but above all discovers himself. Here's an idea to startle us awake with the suggestion that we find the courage and dignity when incapable of loving our neighbors as we would love ourselves, to hate ourselves as we hate our neighbors. I believe Jesus said, you must hate your life, something to consider. And then, because again, the tree has two sides. This is a book about the rabbinical discipline needed to widen our range of vision in the world's of rage. So, chapter 1, the state of envy. He says here from the Talmud, there's a quote: human beings feel envy for everyone except their children and disciples. Sheesh. So it's funny because the Jewish conception of envy here is so, what is it? It's like, it's behind closed doors. I have not heard this teaching. I had to go seek it out, which is fine because you should seek to find. However, again, I take a different approach to it. This is not a religious. This is not a religious reading of this book, and the religious aspect is really just a simple way of putting man in his place. I don't see any other use for religion. If it's not putting man in his place, it's really not a religion to me. It's just a doctrine or another cult, really. You got plenty of cults and plenty of cult leaders. If you subscribe to that kind of that way of going about it, you're going to get certain results that may or may not be beneficial to you. It's all to the spiritual or the soul growth of an individual. You really doing different individuals takes on so many letters that form words, or so many words that form bodies of knowledge. So envy is an overwhelming emotion. A person who envies suffers deeply in a manner conceivable only to other people who share the experience. Misery loves company, right? The face becomes distorted and deep sorrow takes over the body and installs itself in the throat. I'm seeing Van Gogh's, the man sitting, what's the name of that painting? The guy sitting at the table, like starving, but he's got like a grape on his fork or something. And the colors is like muted. And it says, this unbearable sensation seems to transcend the borders of even the greatest loss, death itself. Interesting. He said that the sensation is greater. It transcends the borders of death itself, which he classifies as loss here. So then the Jewish tradition has it to be envious is worse than dying. So we got here Moses at the end of his life asked God why he had to die. Quote, because I have already named Joshua in your place to lead the Israelites, end quote, God responded. Okay, I didn't know that. And then say, let him lead, argued Moses. I will be his servant. And then God concurred, but Joshua didn't like the situation very much. Moses then asked him, don't you want me to stay alive? End quote. Joshua agreed and became leader and master even to him, Moses. When they went to enter the holy tabernacle where the ark was kept, a cloud arose. Joshua was allowed into the holy place while Moses had to remain outside. Said Moses, quote, 100 deaths are preferable to the pain of envy, end quote. On that day, he asked to die. This is Deuteronomy 9:9, I believe is what it says there. All right, let's keep reading a little bit here. It says, this is a story of great intensity. It shows that envy is often uncontrollable, even when lives are at stake. Wow. Something to let breathe. At first, Moses obviously wants to live at any cost. He finds himself at a stage where he's not theorizing about death, but feels it near. Thus, the comparison of 100 such afflictions to the sole example of envy has great power. God and Joshua sense that it would not be right to spare Moses, but they cannot face the emotional blackmail of, quote, don't you want me to live, end quote. Like a child, Moses is made to feel the bitterness of envy in his own mouth so that he can understand. And it is certainly not by chance that this dialogue is set as if in the affective world of infancy. That's affective with an A, which means like affective and not effective. So affective is a change and it affects the emotions or the emotional body or the state of mind, uh, which is why he said the world of infancy. And then after all, Moses' reluctance and later abdication from life characterized the child's world, polarized between, quote, for me and, quote, not for me, right? What's today's math? Everybody, oh, I'm gonna cut you off, quarrels and bickering, and I'm not gonna follow you on the social media. That's what people look like today, with no form of meditation. I'm sorry, with no form of mediation or sublimation. Again, we're dealing with alchemical maxims. To make something sublime is to hold it in check really until it transforms, which will require a mediator. A mediator might be an oracle, like a book for change or a book for pedagogy and restraint, some sort of discipline. It might not be a book at all. And then, quote, if it's not for me, it's better to die, end quote. Moses was reacting to the Joshua who lurks within each one of us, a haunting shadow figure who represents that which we are not. Better to die. Okay, the tragedy of envy is that it usually does not appear only at the end of life, as in this story. Instead, it unfortunately leads to the premature end of many lives. These are the inner lives of people who prefer, like Moses, to extinguish themselves rather than face envy. They wither emotionally from dedicating their lives to avoiding the pain of envy, expending energy to ensure that the, quote, other, end quote, will not find success. For such individuals, life itself cannot offer as much pleasure and happiness as the failure of the other. Let me read that again. For such individuals, life itself cannot offer as much pleasure and happiness as the failure of the other. Right. The person who envies stands before his own lifeless body, since he is no longer capable of feeling for its own sake. He is a troubled soul, a vampire who feeds not on his own vitality, but on that of others. Be careful who you follow this age. This behavior is even more frightening because it is not only about the figure of Moses, righteous man and prophet, but about all human beings. We are all envious of everyone except for our children and disciples. These we perceive as an extension of ourselves, as people through whom we can broaden our own possibilities of pleasure, happiness, and success. So the cup, the pocket, and rage, right? Everyone else is a target for envy. Even children or disciples who for some reason are not seen as extensions of their mentors, such as Joshua, cause envy. Thus, the key question in thinking about envy is how much we narrow or widen the group we think of as children or disciples, and how much this act tends to instill ecological, messianic, or eschatological kinds of reflection. The universality of envy is effectively demonstrated in a commentary by the great 13th century scholar Nahmanides. Nahmanid, oh, Nahmanides. Sure, that's one of them words. On the phrase, love your neighbor as yourself. Again, we already, we already heard this a billion times. So then he said, maybe you should try hating your neighbor as yourself to see if you probably be more successful, is what he's saying. He just kind of, he was like posing it as a shadow meditation. From Leviticus 19:18, he said, sometimes we love our neighbor in some situations and we do him a good turn or a favor. Say the whole neighborhood flood, right? Suddenly we're neighbors again. Well, if the neighborhood doesn't flood, we forget about the last time the neighborhood flooded. Or there's a shooting at a school or a shooting at a building over here, a government building. We think about, oh man, like I'm glad that wasn't me. We bonding over that, or we bonding over the fact that yeah, something a sports team came out on top, college football. Sometimes we can love him with great intensity. When he runs a touchdown, we love him. It's just that we wish him to have riches, property, honor, knowledge, and even wisdom. But just run the fucking touchdown, buddy. If you fumble the ball, oh man, we can sit you on the bench. We might take some of those endorsements off the table. This is all. By the way, this isn't even the people in the skybox. This is the audience, the people in the bleachers, right? String them up. But we don't wish him to be equal to us, as we always hope in our hearts that we will have more than our neighbor does, the Joneses. So we see that envy is an endemic emotion, not pandemic, endemic. Look that up. I will not define that. ENDEMIC. Look the etymology of endemic. Impossible to avoid since it arises in frustrating situations. Yes, it does. However, how we each deal with this emotion, how long it stays with us, and the consequences we allow it to trigger all vary a great deal from person to person. Let's get into it. Modern psychoanalysis has brought great understanding to the origins and anomalies of envy. We know, for example, that these go back to a baby's primal moments with frustration and satisfaction. We recognize that it is impossible to avoid the experience of unmet needs, of hunger, cold, pain, and discomfort. At the same time, we are conscious of the need for affection and attention, so that despite frustrations, we can find equilibrium in the way we live our lives. In this way, we can accept our animal dimension with greater tolerance. This, no doubt, was the century's greatest achievement, engendered by psychoanalysis and anthropology. We accept ourselves more, beginning with our animalistic traits. We can analyze ourselves with more compassion and efficacy in regard to our ideals or our divinity. This book is not so much a study of the pathology of envy as it is a guide to how to live with it. Ancient wisdom built on the past, aches and pains rooted in reflection on the revelation of impulses and attitudes accumulated during our collective history, is an extremely valuable resource in the process of self knowledge. To isolate the virus of envy, check that out. To isolate the virus of envy, forget about it. It's not COVID, it's envy. To identify it amid its innumerable guises. So he said innumerable guises, right? It's like the different Omicron. Uh, now it's Delta. Uh, now it's Alpha. You know, the different shapes it takes. And to identify this virus of envy amid its innumerable guises is to invest in the discovery of one's true face, to look at reality from a new point of view, and make sure you're observing right now what's behind your eyes. Turn the light around. Greater vision in the midst of the darkness of superficiality reduces the aggression of the world and makes our reality more acceptable and more tolerable. So the innumerable guises are variants of this one virus called envy. These variants must be tolerated, not accepted. It's like Ghostbusters. You have to put you gotta throw the trap on the floor and make sure the ghost goes into the trap, and then you dispose the ghost properly. And Buddha spoke of the hungry ghost. It's the noble eightfold path, of course. Just deal with the numerics. Don't deal with the doctrine. The numbers are impeccable. The doctrines are flimsy, and men pollute them and pervert them and promote themselves in the process. If man isn't being put in his place, it's not religion. Remember I said that. In everyday life, we often consider situations in the light of an objective idea of justice. But in the worlds of rage, envy, an approach from the perspective of injustice is more effective. Above all, injustice has to do with how we perceive a problem or question. To be able to deal with hurt and envy, people often create enormous structures of injustice in their minds and feelings, the heart mind. We must be careful with the rationales we create for our sense of injustice, for they contribute to a waste of time and energy, and to isolation and the loneliness of these feelings. Other individuals or even the cosmos itself may not corroborate these feelings. No doubt. This also explains why the universe is so to certain injustices. Some injustices destroy worlds. Some ill-perceived injustices can actually multiply the injustice in this world because they are grounded in erroneous assumptions. We will observe this later in greater detail. For the time being, let us identify some of our best enemies. So let's stop there. This is page 12. Good 12 steps. Hate is envy, laying bare the grudges. So I'm going to come back with another message at a certain point. Hopefully this catches the people who need it. And we're going to lay bare the grudges in the next one. Let's read this quote, leave it at that. A man with a beautiful wife makes a poor friend. Think about that today. You have a great day. Shoo. Hey, Haman, I'm out.